We have this from Fox. Homan and AOC clash over webinar to help immigrants. I'm going to pause you, Fox News. It was illegal immigrants. And evade ICE raids. I thought I educated her. Homan suggested Ocasio-Cortez could be impeding ICE enforcement. I just want to pause real quick for Fox News on this one. It says illegal immigrants right above the headline, and you can click on it. The title just says immigrants, but then it mentions ICE. Why are you conflating the two, Fox? Come on, don't do that. Anyway, the story picked up last night, but it's advanced a little bit as Tom Homan and Eric Adams appeared on Fox. And, well, President Donald Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, on Friday clashed with AOC over a webinar she hosted. Quote, let's pray that she is not educating the next murderer of a young college nursing student on how to evade arrest by ICE. Homan told Fox News Digital on Friday, how many more young women have to be raped, murdered, and burned alive until she wakes up? Homan had said, had first said on the Ingram Angle, that he had emailed the Deputy Attorney General asking whether AOC's hosting of a Know Your Rights with ICE event on her Facebook page could count as impediment to federal law enforcement. Yikes. AOC, then she put out this tweet saying maybe she's going to be in trouble. We did talk about it a little bit the other day. But interestingly, I think the narrative is moving in this direction. I'd like to advance this narrative. This is why we're doing this segment. I want more people asking the question of when does it become illegal when you are aiding and abetting illegal immigrants. Yeah. And perhaps majority of this country would agree. AOC having a webinar about like constitutional rights doesn't meet that criteria. Maybe the average American would be like, I don't know. She's explicitly trying to provide information on how to avoid detection. It's one thing to say, if you are stopped by law enforcement, here are your rights. It's another thing to say, if you go to these locations at this time, if you see people who look like this, that's not about your rights. It's about providing information to allow criminals to evade law enforcement, and you are encouraging them to persist, which is a crime.
You've heard about
I want this question asked.
You've heard about the cute winter boots, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's their code.
Well, explain it.
That's so cute winter boots. This is the code word or phrase that lefties are using to say basically, hey, it's really icy out today. It's very convenient of them to use that terminology, and that's what they're talking about. And so they're actively plotting to help people that they know are here without proper credentials, in the States illegally. And so, if you hear somebody in public saying, cute winter boots, or it's pretty icy out today. I mean, lately, honestly, where we're from, it has been. But the cute winter boots is a dead giveaway.
Right. And then on top of that, what happens when, the officers are trying to find a certain person and something bad happens because they were tipped off in the beginning, and, who's going to be responsible for that?
Exactly.
I've never heard the cute winter boots.
Yeah, it's a thing. I keep tabs on Springfield, Ohio. Shout out to you guys down there. They're really trying to turn their town around. When the Trump administration decided that they were going to start talking about, if you're somebody that's in a position of authority, of power, and you're assisting with, immigrants, illegal immigration, and it's not just if you're a mayor or if you own businesses, that entire town is on the take. There's an entire pipeline through the NGOs.
Oh, yeah.
With the Haitians. We had a video. I went and I interviewed a tow truck driver, and it got 50,000 views. It's on our Roma Nation YouTube channel. And this tow truck driver was going on about, because they're rubber stamping at the DMV their licenses, and they're just flipping brand new cars over. Our government has been giving through the temporary protected status thousands of dollars to these immigrants. These are people actually here legally because of the temporary protected status, which I think is getting rescinded, or they're working on it. So it's kind of messy on that. It's not as easy to deport the Haitians as it is other people that are just here.
Wasn't it
now that they got rid of the TPS stuff, huh?
I believe so. And so Springfield, Ohio, right now, they're trying to get some of their active citizens, get them on the council of their town so they can push these corrupt people out. So it's churches, it's NGOs, it's the temporary service, temporary work service.
Yeah.
That's doing it. They own there's like one guy that owns everything in the pipeline to do it all, to get the money. And the hardest part for them to do is to track the money once it gets to the state level, because not every state has the same reporting standards on the money that comes from DHS and CBP and all of that, which is where a lot of that cash is, that in FEMA, because FEMA is under DHS, right? So that is a big mess. And a lot of it's hidden, and it's a huge money laundering scandal. And if Elon's out there listening to this, you need to go to places like Ohio and talk to people, talk to the congressman, get Jim Jordan, whoever it is that's in the place down there in, I think it's Clark County, that district. Talk to them. These guys need help. They need somebody that can really go in there and clean up that town, because it's really destroyed it.
You were going to say something. I don't know if you...
I was, to your point, remember we were looking at how much money that these towns were actually getting. And I think, what's Springfield, what 20,000 people, if that?
Yeah, it's like 50,000 people. 50, I mean, it's actually a city in decline. A lot of Rust Belt, middle American towns are in a state of population decline since the 70s, 60s, 70s. And Springfield's no different. And the whole point of bringing the migrants in there in the first place, if you go back to this, I think this is a magic year, 2014. So we need to figure out what the common thread is with 2014, because that's where all of the pardons start. That's when a lot of this illegal immigration schemes started in Clark County down there. And they cited population decline in that county. They're like, we need to replace this population to the tune of like 20, 30, 40,000 people. And guess how many people they've imported into that town? Exactly that amount, right? So this has been going on for longer than just, this last year when Trump was talking about cats and dogs. So,
well, the program, we've talked about the program to disseminate these people throughout the country. It was run by Health and Human Services. It was called the Refugee Resettlement Program, and the point was not just for Ohio, but for the country more broadly. And it's something that Musk has talked about. The point was to take people that were looking for asylum, or basically anyone that came here illegally, just give them the status of asylum seekers, and to disperse them through the country, so that way they can the first thing they want to do is change the census for 2030, because that would hopefully what they're hoping for is to change the makeup of the population, so that way they can have a more Democrat, or the Democrats can have a better chance of winning, and then eventually have these people get amnesty and have them become American citizens. And again, with the goal of having them vote Democrat. The goal was a one-party system here in the United States, and we were very, very close to having that be a result of these policies. And now that we have the revelations from the USAID stuff from Doge, that was all being funded by the government. The government was spending the American people's money, spending money that they printed up for these programs to affect the political outcomes in the United States. That's entirely illegal. That's completely illegal. That is totally contrary to the whole narrative that the Democrats and the left spin, which is democracy. It's our democracy, our democracy. That's all BS. It was all a lie, because they wanted to have a single party rule, and that's antithetical to what the United States is built on.
And let's appeal to the humanitarian side of this. This is when we're complaining about people being brought here for labor purposes, or for being milked for the NGO money, all of that funding. That's human exploitation. They're exploiting people from other countries and bringing them in here and just loading them up with, welfare money that eventually will dry up. It'll get revoked. And what happens then when you bring people to a country, from a country, to a nice country, from a country that has been destroyed systematically and through natural disasters like Haiti, where they have diametrically opposed cultures? They're not brought here to assimilate. Like, Tim, I remember when you were over in Northern Europe, and you went into those ghettos, right? Or what they called the no-go zones, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where they had generations of people that came in that were not properly assimilated. That conversation you had in the bar with those guys, and I think it was one guy was from Germany there, that was really eye-opening. That's the very same thing we see in Springfield or in other parts around the country, is where they brought here under pretenses of, oh, these are people, we want to help them. Yes, they come from places that war-torn or natural disaster torn, but then they're being exploited, which is horrific.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really bad situation for all involved when it comes to the stuff at the illegalities that have been going on around the border.
What I guess they don't care to understand or just don't understand is it's a generational problem. And one of the stories we got out of Sweden was in the city of Södertälje. There were the children of migrants who are now adults in a car with a guy standing up in the sunroof, opening fire with an automatic weapon on a bank. And these are the 20-year results of bringing in people and not providing proper assimilation. And I mean it, providing. What they did in Sweden was they just told them all, just do whatever you want. You're welcome here.
Yep.
The problem is Swedes are all incredibly racist. And so when the government was trying to do this either economic thing or this like, look how noble we are thing, we're not racist. They're very racist. They ended up bringing in a bunch of people from Somalia who, when these people tried to get jobs, could not because the white Swedes didn't want to hire them. And it's really funny how hoity-toity and like progressive they claim to be. And so what happens is these Somali refugees form enclaves in parts of the country where they all start moving around each other because that's the only way they could work and provide for each other because they were largely being dismissed. They have children who grow up in a Somali refugee enclave. These children are Swedish, but they're not from Somalia. And white Swedes call them Somalis.
Yeah, they're Swedish by nationality, but the Swedes,
Exactly.
the Swedish people, have been the Swedish people for a long time, and the nationality of those people, it's part of their culture and stuff. It's who they are. Like in the United States, we can get away with that kind of stuff because we don't have the same kind of deep roots. There have been Swedes have been there for 1,000 years.
But so I'll put it this way: we don't got to call them racist. We can just say multiculturalism does not work the way these transnational, I love that word, interest groups think it will. And so they decide to bring large portions of Somali individuals and drop them in Sweden. And what did they find? It completely did not work. Their cultural values were different. Swedish people did not tolerate Somali refugees. And it exacerbated this problem until we ended up with stories in the past decade or so. When I went to Sweden over this, story with Trump, only a couple of months before we got there, someone for no reason threw a grenade onto a balcony where there was an 8-year-old British child who was on vacation with the family and he got injured. Or I don't know exactly how severe the injury was, but it was a serious attack. Grenade attacks happening. I think Sweden has more grenade attacks than like most other countries that are not at war. I think the stat was Sweden has more grenade attacks than any other country that is considered in peace. Grenade attacks.
That's so wild.
It's because the gangs were buying old grenades from the Balkans wars or whatever, and then using them in their conflicts. So the issue is largely you cannot take two entirely different cultures and then mash them into each other.
Right.
You'll get conflict. Yeah. We don't want the conflict, but this is what's been happening.
That's the other concern in Springfield is that because of the temporary protected status, I went around to some, and I should have did a video on it. I did go around to some of the gun shops because there was an interview with a girl who allegedly worked for a big box store that sells firearms. And she was saying that because of their protected status, they could go in and just buy guns because they were here legally. So they are not, because they had paperwork and everything. Now, I don't know how it works, but she said it was working that way. And I went around and I asked a couple of stores, and one guy was really terse with me, but we made friends after a while and got talking, and I bought some ammo from him. But he was saying, look, if you can fill out this form And he had a secondary form. He's like, you check this out. And at the bottom it says, if any of this, and it's basically a condensed 4473. But he says, if you failed that check, I keep your money. You pay me up front. If you fail the background check, I keep it. I keep the gun, everything, and you're out of my shop. So he's very serious about it. But he said, look, I have people that come in here all the time. They pass it. They're fine.
Really?
Yes.
That's I mean, according to I'm just googling the AI search, but according to the Brave AI, it says that Ohio residents must be U.S. citizens to legally purchase firearms.
Yes.
Not that they're going to check.
Okay, so
Someone shows up with a driver's license and does a background check. I've never been citizenship tested.
So here's the thing. Big box stores go by nationwide standards, right? Ohio gun dealers, and I talked to about...
This is federal law.
Yes.
It's a federal law. You have to be a citizen. The federal law says that you have to be a citizen.
You have to be a citizen?
Yes, that's
what
that's what it's saying here.
Then somebody's breaking the law, because I talked to both the big box store guys, and I played a little game, little game. We have a friend of ours that lives in Ireland, and I was like, hey, a buddy of mine wants to come in and go hunting. And so I gave him a scenario. I was like, but he's a little bit sketched about, our process. He wants to know how everything is. And the guy told me straight up, he has to have legal residency as a citizen. He doesn't have to be, he said that he didn't say citizenship. He said residency, and if he wants to come in and buy his own firearm. So there's something with the TPS, something about residency. If you're saying citizen, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just know what I heard when I talked to these FFLs. So the local FFLs said, look, if you're not in Ohio, if you don't have an Ohio driver's license, I'm not selling you anything. Because the local mom and pop gun shop owners, they are way more protective of their FFLs than a big box store is.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.